Dear friends, welcome to our channel. We are delighted to share with you different stories about love and betrayal from around the world. So now, let's begin today's story journey. When the rainy season came to London, Marcus often said it was his most hated time of year. However, on that rainy Wednesday afternoon, lying in his hospital bed at St. Thomas Hospital, he realized nothing was more heartbreaking than hearing his wife Lisa's cold voice. "We're going to have a great time in Rome. Don't call to bother us." Through the hospital room speaker, Lisa's cheerful voicemail came through clearly. It felt like a hammer striking his recently surgically repaired ribs. The laughter and clinking champagne glasses in the background made the whole scene even more painful. Marcus looked at Emily, his sister standing by his bedside, her eyes filled with shock and anger. "Does she know you almost died in that accident?" Emily asked, her voice trembling with anger. Marcus shook his head with difficulty, his throat too painful to speak normally after the intubation. In fact, he was certain Lisa knew. After driving his truck to deliver the last batch of plumbing fixtures in Stratford, that terrible multi-vehicle collision nearly took his life. He remembered losing consciousness when the ambulance arrived. Upon waking, he discovered 2 broken ribs, a shattered right leg, and various internal injuries. The doctors told him that if he had been brought in 10 minutes later, he might not have survived. Lisa received a call from the hospital 2 hours after the accident. At that time, Marcus was still in intensive care, with doctors fighting to save his life. She briefly said she would come as soon as possible, then hung up. But she never showed up. That was 3 days ago. Now, Marcus listened to his wife's cruel voicemail, feeling a pain far worse than his physical injuries. In their 12 years of marriage, he never imagined there would come a day when his wife would choose to party in Rome with friends while his life hung in the balance. "Marcus, I need to tell you something." Emily sat at his bedside, her expression complicated. In her view, this might not be the best timing, but perhaps there would never be a right time. "I've long suspected Lisa was unfaithful to you," she said softly. "I didn't want to tell you at a time like this, but after hearing this voicemail, I think you need to know the truth." Marcus's jumbled thoughts suddenly became clear. The various anomalies in Lisa's behavior over the past few months, the weekend emergency work meetings, the late-night messages she quickly locked her phone after smiling at, and her increasingly obvious coldness toward him. Everything made sense now. "Adam Bishop," he said in a hoarse voice. Emily's eyes widened in surprise. "You know?" Marcus shook his head. "Just suspected that sales director from her company." Adam Bishop was the sales manager at Lisa's insurance company, a self-styled playboy divorce who always wore custom suits and drove that flashy Porsche. 6 months ago, Lisa began frequently mentioning his name, praising his sales abilities and business acumen. Marcus didn't pay much attention at the time, but as Lisa's weekend overtime increased, he began to suspect. "That bastard is in Rome too," Emily said. "Joanna told me. Lisa's assistant. She says the whole office knows about them. You're the only one being kept in the dark." Marcus closed his eyes, feeling an unprecedented sense of betrayal. He was a plumber, without a college degree, his hands calloused from years of working with pipes and tools. Lisa was a senior client manager at London's largest insurance company, always dressed in business attire, frequenting high-end office buildings. Nevertheless, he had always thought their marriage was solid. For the past 12 years, he had worked tirelessly, growing from an ordinary plumber to the owner of his own small plumbing repair company with 5 employees. He saved every penny to allow Lisa to live in that Kensington apartment, to pay for her beloved designer bags and fine restaurants. He never complained about her spending or refused any of her requests. "I need your help," Marcus suddenly said, his voice filled with unprecedented determination. Emily held her brother's hand. "Anything. I need you to contact my lawyer, James Turner. Then help me get my laptop." Over the next 24 hours, with pain relief from medication, Marcus began formulating his plan. James came to the hospital, bringing legal documents and advice. Marcus made some phone inquiries and learned that Lisa and Adam were indeed in Rome together for a 10-day trip. They were staying at a 5-star hotel on Via Veneto, with Lisa having booked the room using their joint credit card. With Emily's help, Marcus first contacted their bank. As the primary account holder, he froze all joint accounts and canceled Lisa's supplementary card privileges. He contacted the credit card company, reported the card as lost, and requested a temporary freeze on all transactions. For the two credit cards Lisa held separately, he contacted the issuing banks, informed them of potential fraudulent transactions, and requested a temporary block. Considering he was the guarantor and was paying these bills, the banks agreed to his request. Then, he called the HR department of Lisa's insurance company. After briefly introducing himself as Lisa's husband and expressing a need to urgently contact her without success, he cleverly got them to reveal that Lisa had indeed taken leave to attend a business trip with sales director Adam Bishop. James advised him to keep all evidence, including hospital records, Lisa's voicemail, bank transaction records, and any materials that might prove her infidelity. In the UK, although it was no longer necessary to prove fault to get divorced, this evidence would give him an advantage in property division and potential alimony issues. On the morning of the fifth day, just when Marcus expected Lisa would discover her financial access had been cut off, his phone rang. Lisa's name appeared on the screen. He took a deep breath, pressed the answer button, but didn't speak. Marcus. Lisa's voice came through, sounding anxious and annoyed. What's going on? None of my cards are working. He remained silent, just listening to the noise in the background, seemingly a cafe or restaurant. Marcus, I know you can hear me. The hotel says our credit card was declined, and I just tried to shop at Chanel, and my card was rejected in front of everyone. What the hell are you doing? He still didn't respond, listening as her voice gradually changed from annoyance to panic. This is ridiculous. I'm in Rome with barely €100 in cash. You can't just... I can't what? Marcus finally spoke, his voice low and cold. Can't freeze the accounts while you're vacationing in Rome with your lover? Sudden silence fell on the other end of the line. What? What are you talking about? Lisa's voice suddenly became very small. Don't insult my intelligence, Lisa. I know Adam Bishop is there too. I know you're staying at the same hotel, in the same room. I know this isn't the first time you've betrayed me. Marcus, let me explain. Explain what? Explain why you went to Rome while I nearly died in a car accident. Explain why you left a voicemail telling me don't call to bother you. Or explain how long you've been sleeping with Adam. Lisa's rapid breathing could be heard through the phone. Car accident? What accident? Are you okay? She asked, her voice showing genuine concern for the first time. Marcus gave a cold laugh. Isn't it a bit late to pretend to care? I've been in St. Thomas Hospital for 5 days. 2 broken ribs, shattered right leg. The doctors said I nearly died there. Oh God, Marcus, I didn't know. Didn't know? The hospital notified you 2 hours after the accident. You said you would come, but you didn't. Then you flew to Rome with your lover. Lisa was silent for a moment, seemingly searching for an appropriate excuse. I did get a call, but they only said you were injured and out of danger. I thought it was just minor scratches, and I had planned this trip for a long time. The tickets and hotel were non-refundable. Planned with Adam? Marcus interrupted. Or was this business trip a last-minute decision? Silence fell on the other end of the line again. Listen, Lisa, Marcus continued, his voice calm but firm. I've contacted a lawyer. The papers will be delivered when you return to London. Until then, all accounts will remain frozen. I suggest you find a way to get money for your return flight. Perhaps Adam can help? Marcus, you can't do this. Lisa's voice suddenly became sharp. You can't just abandon me in a foreign country. We need to talk. I can explain everything. Like you explained the weekend overtime for the past 6 months? Like you explained those late-night messages? Or like you explained why you suddenly needed a separate bank account? Please, Lisa's voice softened, tearful now. At least transfer some money back to me. I'll figure out how to get back to London myself, and then we can talk properly. Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the pain in his chest reminding him of his physical injuries. I'll call the hotel and pay for your single room until next Monday. As for the return flight, I'll arrange that separately. But there will be no extra money, Lisa. No shopping, no restaurants, no luxuries. What about Adam? Lisa asked quietly. Marcus felt a wave of nausea rise in his throat. Adam is none of my concern. He's an adult, presumably capable of taking care of himself. He hung up without waiting for Lisa's response, then turned off his phone, falling into a strange state of calm. A nurse came in to check his condition, surprised to find his blood pressure much higher than usual. Is something bothering you, sir? The young nurse asked with concern. Marcus shook his head, just dealing with some family matters. In the days that followed, Marcus's recovery speed exceeded the doctor's expectations. Anger seemed to give him some kind of strength, motivating him to actively cooperate with physical therapy and work hard to regain mobility. Emily came to the hospital every day to keep him company, help him handle company affairs, and bring more news about Lisa and Adam. Apparently, office rumors had spread, and someone had seen Lisa and Adam being too intimate at the company's Christmas party. Marcus instructed James to draft divorce papers, filing on the grounds of irretrievable breakdown of marriage and unreasonable behavior. Under UK law, although it typically takes 2 years of separation to divorce, if one party can prove the other's unreasonable behavior, the process can be expedited. Lisa's affair, coupled with her cold attitude during his serious hospitalization, undoubtedly constituted sufficient grounds. Meanwhile, following James's advice, Marcus began dealing with their joint property. Although the Kensington apartment was jointly purchased, the down payment came mostly from Marcus's savings, and the mortgage was primarily paid with his income. He contacted the property management company, informed them of the possible situation, and ensured he could still access the apartment. On the day before Marcus planned to be discharged, as Lisa's return flight to London was about to land, he had a final check on the plan details with James. "Everything is ready," James told him. "The private investigator has gathered enough evidence to prove her relationship with Adam. We've also prepared the application for a temporary restraining order if she tries to access any assets of the apartment or company." Marcus nodded, feeling a strange sense of relief. "Thank you, James." "You're welcome." The lawyer patted his shoulder. "Remember, the coming days might be tough. She'll try various ways to soften your heart. There might be tears, apologies, promises, and possibly threats and accusations. Stay firm. Remember how you feel right now." Marcus looked out at the London skyline, the post-rain sunshine making the whole city look renewed. "I won't forget." When Lisa's flight landed at Heathrow Airport, Marcus had already returned to the Kensington apartment with Emily's help. He sat in a wheelchair, his right leg in a cast, watching Emily help him set up a temporary bed in the living room. The doctor had advised him to minimize going up and down stairs, and their bedroom was on the second floor. Lisa would definitely come straight home, he thought. She would expect a heated argument, tears and accusations, and perhaps a chance to explain and apologize. But she would get none of these. Marcus had planned every step. He would remain calm and rational, not explode, not threaten, and not give her any opportunity to twist the facts. The evidence was conclusive, the lawyer was in position, the divorce proceedings had been initiated. There was no room for reconciliation, no possibility of resolution. Around 7 in the evening, the sound of keys turning in the apartment door lock could be heard. Emily squeezed Marcus's hand, then retreated to the kitchen, giving the siblings some space. Lisa pushed open the door, dragging a small suitcase, looking exhausted. Her blonde hair was messily tied in a ponytail, her makeup had smeared, and her eyes were red and swollen from crying. When she saw Marcus sitting in the wheelchair, she froze on the spot. "Marcus," she said softly, her voice trembling with surprise, "you look like I'm just recovering from a car accident that nearly killed me." He calmly finished her sentence. Lisa slowly walked into the living room, putting down her suitcase. "I didn't know it was this serious. The hospital only said you were injured. So you decided to go on vacation in Rome instead of coming to check on my condition." Lisa's eyes moistened again. "I made a terrible mistake, Marcus. I'm truly sorry. I don't know how to explain." "No explanation needed," Marcus interrupted her. "All explanations are irrelevant now." He picked up a folder from the coffee table next to him and handed it to her. "This is the divorce petition. James has prepared all the documents. I suggest you find a good lawyer." Lisa took the folder in shock, but didn't open it. "Divorce? Marcus, can't we at least talk first? 12 years of marriage. 12 years of marriage, which you ended with betrayal." Marcus's voice remained calm, but full of determination. "No need for negotiation, no need for reconciliation. I've arranged hotel accommodation for you until you find a new place. Emily will take you there." Lisa's face changed from pale to angry red. "This is my home. You can't just throw me out like this." "Actually, he can." Emily walked out from the kitchen, her tone firm. 90% of the down payment for this apartment came from Marcus's savings, and the mortgage over the past 12 years has been primarily paid by him. And considering the current situation, The court would likely approve temporary living arrangements that allow the injured party to remain at home. Lisa looked at Emily in surprise, then turned back to Marcus. You got your sister involved in our affairs. During the 5 days you were vacationing in Rome, Emily took care of me, Marcus said. And now, I need her help to handle basic daily activities. Lisa grasped at the last straw. Then let me take care of you. Let me make up for my mistakes. Give us a chance to repair our relationship. Marcus shook his head. It's too late, Lisa. You chose Adam over me. Now, please pack your essentials. You can come back for the rest of your things later. Lisa looked like she wanted to continue arguing, but finally deflated. She went upstairs to the bedroom without a word, Emily following behind to ensure she only took personal items. 20 minutes later, Lisa returned to the living room with 2 suitcases. Her eye makeup was completely ruined, but she straightened her back, trying to maintain dignity. This isn't going to end like this, Marcus, she said, her voice low but full of determination. I made a mistake, but I won't give up on our marriage. Marcus looked at her, no longer feeling that heartbreaking pain, only a deep disappointment and relief. For me, it's already over. When Emily left the apartment with Lisa, Marcus finally allowed himself to release the emotions he had suppressed for a week. He wasn't crying for the lost marriage, but for the lost trust, for the woman he thought he knew, for the love he had once been willing to give everything for. But as the tears flowed, he felt an unprecedented clarity and release. This was an ending, but also a new beginning. The next morning, Marcus received a call from James. There's a small issue, the lawyer said. Adam Bishop has contacted me. He wants to meet with you. Marcus frowned. Why? He didn't specify the reason, but mentioned mutual interests and avoiding unnecessary disputes. Marcus considered for a moment. Rather than avoiding the issue, better to face it. Schedule it for next week, when I can move more easily. At your office. Are you sure? James sounded concerned. Yes, Marcus said firmly. It's time to resolve all issues. When Adam Bishop walked into James's office, Marcus was positioned near the window, his wheelchair facing the city view. Adam looked more exhausted than when Marcus had last seen him at Lisa's company gathering. His signature perfect hairstyle was somewhat disheveled, and his expensive suit appeared wrinkled. Marcus! Adam nodded in greeting, his voice low and restrained. Thank you for agreeing to see me. Marcus gestured for him to sit down, while James also took a seat nearby, ready to intervene if necessary. I'll get straight to the point, Adam said. I want to apologize for everything that happened. My behavior is inexcusable. I betrayed professional ethics and basic interpersonal trust. Marcus looked at him silently, not responding. Adam cleared his throat and continued. I know an apology can't make up for the damage already done, but I want you to know that I never intended for things to go this far. Lisa and I, we both made serious mistakes. Are you here to plead Lisa's case? Marcus finally asked. Adam shook his head. No, I'm here for myself. Lisa and I are over. The last few days in Rome were very difficult. We both realized that our relationship was built on the wrong foundation. Marcus raised an eyebrow. So you abandoned her? Just when she needed support the most. Adam looked surprised. Actually, she ended the relationship with me. After learning about your car accident, she was very remorseful. She realized she had made an unforgivable mistake. Marcus wasn't sure whether to believe this story, but he didn't show it. So what's your purpose in coming here? Partly to apologize, Adam admitted, but also to offer a solution. I've resigned from my position at the insurance company. Next week I'll be leaving London for the Scottish branch. I won't appear in your or Lisa's life again. Marcus thought for a moment. You think that's enough? You think that makes up for all the harm? Adam shook his head, his eyes showing sincere regret. No, of course not. Nothing can compensate for the harm we've caused you. But this is the best thing I can do, disappear from your lives. Finally, Adam took an envelope from his bag and placed it on the coffee table. Here is my statement to the company's HR department, admitting I abused my position to develop an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate. Also my resignation letter. If you decide to file a lawsuit, these documents might help you. Marcus looked at the envelope, feeling a strange emptiness. He had expected to feel intense anger toward the man who had taken his wife, but now he only felt tired and somewhat pitiful. I have no interest in your career, Adam. I just want to end all this and continue my life. Keep your apologies and statements for those who really need them. Adam nodded, standing up. I understand. Again, I apologize for everything, Marcus. I wish you a speedy recovery. After Adam left the office, James looked at Marcus. Are you okay? Marcus took a deep breath, feeling a strange sense of relief. Better than I expected. The following weeks were both challenging and rebuilding for Marcus. He began participating more in the company's daily operations, and although he still couldn't personally visit work sites, he could guide employees through video calls and handle customer needs. His leg injury was recovering slower than expected, but doctors were optimistic about his overall recovery. Lisa tried to contact him several times, through phone calls, text messages, and even coming to the apartment door. Each time, Marcus maintained a firm stance, refusing to see her, communicating only through lawyers. Her voicemails ranged from angry to pleading, from threatening to apologetic, but Marcus had made up his mind and wouldn't look back. 6 weeks after the accident, the divorce proceedings officially began. In the UK, even if one party disagrees, as long as it can be proven that the marriage has irretrievably broken down, the court will accept the divorce petition. Lisa eventually hired her own lawyer, but faced with the evidence collected by Marcus's team, she had little ground for defense. Property division became the main point of contention. Lisa demanded half ownership of the apartment and shares in Marcus's company. But considering the reason for the marriage breakdown and Marcus's primary contribution to these assets, the court finally ruled that she could only receive a smaller proportion of compensation. Throughout the process, Marcus found his emotions gradually shifting from pain to acceptance, and then to a strange gratitude. This betrayal, though painful, allowed him to see the truth of his marriage and gave him a chance to start anew. As the rainy season ended, Marcus's physical therapy was also nearing its conclusion. He could now walk short distances using crutches, and doctors predicted that in the coming months, he would fully regain mobility. The night before he planned to return to work without using a wheelchair for the first time, Lisa sent a text message. I know you don't want to hear what I have to say, but I need you to know how much I regret this. I ruined our marriage, and it will be the biggest regret of my life. I hope one day you find happiness, Marcus. You deserve someone who truly loves you. Marcus looked at this message, feeling a calm certainty. He didn't reply, just deleted the text and turned off his phone. Tomorrow was a new day, the beginning of a new life. When London's rainy season came again, Marcus stood at the window of his newly purchased small villa, watching the rain wash over the roses he had just planted in the garden. This time, the rainy season no longer made him feel irritated and depressed, but represented purification and rebirth. The past year had changed everything: his marriage, his health, his worldview. But in all the pain and challenges, he found his true strength and value. That betrayal taught him the fragility of trust, but also made him understand his own resilience. He raised his hand, gently touching the scar on his chest, a permanent memorial of that car accident. Sometimes scars are the best reminders, reminding us of the wounds we've suffered, and also reminding us of our own strength. Outside, the rain fell harder, but Marcus knew that no matter how great the storm, he had learned how to stand firm in the tempest. Part 2. 2 years later, when Daniel Harris returned home from his work site in western San Francisco, he didn't anticipate the phone call that would change his life. As an electrical engineer, he was accustomed to long hours of work and challenging projects, but that day was different. After completing the final inspection of the electrical system for a newly constructed commercial building, he felt an unusual fatigue and dizziness. You look terrible, man, his assistant Pete said. Maybe you should head home early to rest. Daniel nodded, forcing a smile. Probably just tired. This project has nearly drained us all. But on the drive home, this discomfort grew increasingly intense. His vision began to blur, his headache became severe, and even turning the steering wheel became difficult. When he stopped at a red light, he suddenly felt an intense chest pain, as if someone had placed a huge rock on his chest. He managed to pull over, reaching for his phone. His last memory was dialing 911 before everything went dark. When Daniel opened his eyes again, the harsh white light and the smell of disinfectant immediately made him realize he was in a hospital. A middle-aged doctor wearing glasses stood by his bedside, his expression serious. Mr. Harris, I'm Dr. Mendez. Do you know why you're here? Daniel tried to shake his head, but immediately felt a sharp pain. You suffered a severe heart attack, the doctor explained. Fortunately, someone called emergency services promptly, and the ambulance arrived quickly. But the situation was quite serious, and we had to perform emergency surgery. Daniel felt a wave of fear wash over him. A heart attack? He was only 38, and although his work was stressful, he had always considered himself healthy. Has my wife been notified, Nicole? He asked with difficulty. Dr. Mendez nodded. We notified her according to the emergency contact information in your wallet. She said she would come as soon as possible, but she's currently on a business trip in Italy. Daniel closed his eyes, trying to digest this information. Nicole was a fashion buyer who often needed to travel to various European countries for fashion weeks and fabric exhibitions. She had mentioned this trip to Italy, but Daniel had been busy with his own projects and hadn't paid much attention to the details. How did the surgery go? He asked, trying to shift focus from Nicole's absence. The doctor's expression became more serious. We inserted 2 stents to clear the blocked arteries. The situation is stable, but you need to completely change your lifestyle. Reduce work stress, maintain a regular diet, start moderate exercise, and take medication regularly. Over the next few days, Daniel spent time in intensive care, surrounded by various instruments and tubes. He tried to contact Nicole, but her phone always went to voicemail. He received only a few brief text messages, stating she was trying to arrange a return flight, but there always seemed to be various difficulties preventing her immediate return. On the 3rd day, when Daniel was transferred to a regular ward, he finally received a voice message from Nicole. He pressed play, expecting to hear his wife's concerned voice and the exact time of her return. However, what came through the speaker was a completely different voice. We're going to have a great time in Rome. Don't call to bother us. In the background were sounds of laughter and clinking glasses, along with a man's deep laughter, sounding unusually intimate. Daniel felt his blood freeze in his veins. He recognized that male voice. Marco, Nicole's Italian colleague, the talented designer she often mentioned. With trembling fingers, he replayed the message, confirming he hadn't misheard. No, this wasn't a misdirected message. This was deliberately sent to him by Nicole. Don't call to bother us. Knowing he had suffered a heart attack and his life was in danger. An unprecedented anger and sense of betrayal swept through Daniel's entire body. He had always supported Nicole's career, encouraged her to pursue her dreams, even if it meant she was frequently away on business trips, even if it led to them spending less time together in recent years. And this was the reward he received? The door to the ward opened, and his brother Jason walked in, carrying a bouquet of flowers and several magazines. Hey, bro, the doctor says you're much more stable. Jason smiled, but when he saw Daniel's pale face and shocked expression, he immediately stopped. What happened? Daniel wordlessly handed his phone to Jason, pressing replay. As the voice message played again, Jason's expression changed from confusion to shock, and finally to anger. That bitch. Jason cursed under his breath. How dare she? Daniel leaned back against the pillow, feeling weak and nauseated. She knows I'm in the hospital. She knows I almost died. Jason sat in the chair by the bed, holding his brother's hand. Listen, Dan, I've never wanted to say this, but Sarah and I have long suspected Nicole was unfaithful to you. Daniel looked at his brother, waiting for him to continue. Last month, Sarah saw her with a man at a restaurant in Nob Hill, behaving very intimately. At the time, we weren't sure. Maybe it was just a work relationship, but now. Daniel closed his eyes, trying to control his emotions. 10 years of marriage, countless times giving up his own opportunities to support her career, all the sacrifices and compromises. What was it all for? I need you to help me do some things, Jason, Daniel finally said, his voice low but firm. Anything, brother. First, I need you to contact my bank. As the primary account holder, I want to freeze all cards and accounts related to Nicole. Jason nodded, taking out a notebook to start recording. Then, contact my lawyer and start preparing divorce papers. Are you sure? Maybe we should wait until you're better, when your head is clearer to make a decision. Daniel shook his head, his expression resolute. I've never been more clear-headed, Jason. She betrayed me when I needed her most. This isn't an impulsive decision. Over the next 2 days, Jason helped Daniel execute his plan. As the primary account holder, Daniel successfully froze all joint credit cards and bank accounts. Their San Francisco apartment was joint property, but the mortgage was primarily paid with Daniel's income. He contacted the property management company, informing them of possible situation changes and ensuring he could still access the apartment. Daniel's lawyer, a shrewd woman named Rachel Chun, acted quickly, preparing preliminary divorce papers. In California, as a no-fault divorce state, technically it wasn't necessary to prove a spouse's infidelity to file for divorce, but Rachel advised collecting any evidence that might influence property division. On the morning of the sixth day, as Daniel expected, Nicole finally called. Seeing his wife's name on the screen, he took a deep breath, preparing to face this inevitable conversation. Daniel? Finally connected. My credit cards aren't working, what's going on? Nicole's voice sounded both annoyed and confused. Daniel remained silent, just listening to the voice on the other end. Daniel, I know you can hear me. The hotel says our credit card was declined. I can't check out. What the hell are you doing? What am I doing? Daniel finally spoke, his voice calm but full of anger. I'm the one who suffered a heart attack, nearly died, while you're playing around in Italy with your lover. The line suddenly went quiet. What? What are you talking about? Nicole's voice became smaller. Don't play dumb, Nicole. Your voice message said it all. We're going to have a great time in Rome. Don't call to bother us. Truly heartwarming concern, especially for a husband who just went through a life or death situation. Daniel, that message wasn't. You misunderstood. Misunderstood what? Misunderstood Marco's laughter in the background. Misunderstood the fact that you're together in Rome instead of Milan? Or misunderstood your decision to stay there after learning I was hospitalized? Nicole seemed to be searching for an appropriate excuse. I didn't need to go to Milan for the fabric exhibition, but afterwards Marco invited me to Rome to see some new design studios. It was just work, Daniel. As for that voice message, it was a joke. I thought it would make you laugh. I didn't know you had a heart attack. The hospital only said you were hospitalized, and your condition was stable. Enough, Nicole, Daniel interrupted her. I've contacted a lawyer. Divorce papers are being prepared. I've frozen all joint accounts. If you need money to return to the US, you can contact your darling Marco for help. Divorce? Daniel, you can't be serious. We need to talk. Resolve this misunderstanding face to face. There's nothing to talk about anymore. You betrayed me, right when I needed you most. This isn't an impulsive decision, Nicole. It's the last straw in 10 years of marriage. Please, Daniel. Nicole's voice softened, tearful now. Let me explain. At least give me a chance. I love you. I don't want to lose our marriage. Daniel felt a pain in his chest, but wasn't sure if it was from post-surgery discomfort or heartbreak. Love shouldn't be like this, Nicole. Love should be showing up when your partner needs you, not enjoying yourself in Rome with someone else. Then at least give me money for a return flight. Nicole's voice suddenly became sharp. You can't just strand me in a foreign country. Daniel thought for a moment. Despite feeling betrayed and angry, he still maintained some rationality. I'll arrange an economy class ticket, direct to San Francisco. No stopovers, no extra expenses. The flight ticket will be sent to your email. As for accommodation, I'm sure Marco will be happy to help. Daniel, you can't. But he had already hung up, feeling a mixture of relief and pain. Jason, who had been in the hospital room with him, gave him an encouraging look. You did the right thing, bro. Daniel nodded, but couldn't fully believe it. Ending a 10-year marriage wasn't an easy decision, even in the face of such obvious betrayal. In the weeks that followed, Daniel focused on his recovery. Under the doctor's guidance, he began light exercise, adjusted his diet, and strictly followed his medication schedule. Jason and his wife Sarah took turns keeping him company, helping him handle daily affairs and urgent matters at the company. Meanwhile, Nicole returned to San Francisco, but on the lawyer's advice, Daniel refused to see her. She tried to contact him through phone calls, text messages, and even mutual friends, but Daniel maintained his firm stance. He had arranged for Nicole to stay temporarily at a hotel until she found a new place. After the divorce proceedings officially began, Nicole hired her own lawyer, trying to secure more in the property division. As a community property state, California law typically requires an equal division of property acquired during marriage. However, Rachel presented evidence of Nicole's misconduct and affair, including that voice message, and testimony from Jason and Sarah proving Nicole's improper relationship with Marco. At the lawyers' mediation meeting, Nicole tried to defend herself. That voice message was just a stupid joke, she argued. Marco is just a colleague and friend. There's nothing improper between us. But when Rachel showed photographs taken by Sarah of Nicole and Marco's intimate interaction at the restaurant, and hotel registration records showing they shared a room in Rome, Nicole's defense fell apart. Even so, Nicole's lawyer countered, California is a no-fault divorce state. Infidelity shouldn't affect property division. Rachel smiled and nodded. In theory, yes. But judges will consider Nicole's behavior when Mr. Harris was facing a life-threatening medical emergency. Not to mention, my client's income has always been the main economic source for the family, while Nicole's fashion buyer job was more out of personal interest than economic necessity. Eventually, the parties reached an agreement. Nicole would receive 1/3 of their joint property, rather than the usual half. She gave up any rights to Daniel's company shares, while Daniel agreed to pay alimony for a limited period until she could establish her own career. The day before signing the final divorce papers, Nicole requested a private meeting with Daniel. After consideration, Daniel agreed, choosing to meet at a neutral cafe. When Nicole walked into the cafe, Daniel noticed she looked much more haggard. Her once shining blonde hair now looked dull, her fashionable attire replaced by a simple black sweater and jeans. "Thank you for agreeing to see me," she said softly, sitting across from him. Daniel nodded but didn't respond. He noticed his heartbeat remained steady, without the expected anger or pain. Perhaps it was the effect of the medication, or perhaps he had truly moved on. "I wanted to tell you in person that I'm truly sorry for everything that happened," Nicole continued, her voice trembling with sincerity. "I'm not defending myself or seeking forgiveness. I just want you to know that I realize how big a mistake I made." Daniel looked at her, waiting for her to continue. "Marco and I did have a relationship," she admitted, tears in her eyes. "It started during Paris Fashion Week last year. I felt lonely, lost, craving understanding. This isn't an excuse for what I did to you, but it's the truth. Why not just tell me you weren't happy?" Daniel asked calmly. "Why choose betrayal over communication?" Nicole wiped away tears, shaking her head. "I don't know. Maybe because admitting failure was too hard for me. Maybe because I was afraid to face reality. Maybe because I was too selfish, wanting the best of both worlds." She took out a small envelope and placed it on the table. "This is a letter I wrote to you. It contains everything I wanted to say, and some things I hope you know. Believe it or not, I did love you, Daniel. But I failed that love." Daniel looked at the envelope but didn't reach for it. "Nicole, I don't hate you. I just don't trust you anymore." Nicole nodded, understanding showing on her face. "I understand. I hope someday you find someone who truly deserves you, Daniel. You deserve better." As she stood to leave, Daniel felt a strange sense of peace. 10 years of marriage ended just like that, not in anger and quarrels, but in quiet acceptance and release. The next day, he signed the final divorce papers at his lawyer's office, officially ending his marriage to Nicole. Walking out of the office, the sunshine warming his face, he took a deep breath, feeling a long-absent sense of freedom and lightness. 6 months after the heart attack, Daniel's life began to get back on track. Under the doctor's guidance, he adjusted his work pace, hired more employees to share the pressure, and began daily exercise and healthy eating. His physical condition gradually improved, and although he still needed regular medication and checkups, the doctor was satisfied with his recovery. In his personal life, he moved out of the apartment full of memories and bought a small house in the Bay Area, with a little garden overlooking the bay. Jason and Sarah often visited with their children, filling the house's emptiness. One day, while Daniel was having a routine checkup at the local cardiac rehabilitation center, he met a physical therapist named Elena. She was a gentle and energetic woman, attentive and professional with patients. They began chatting and discovered they had many things in common: a love for music, an interest in cooking, even supporting the same baseball team. A few weeks later, Daniel gathered the courage to invite Elena to dinner. She smiled and accepted, but reminded him to watch his diet. "Don't worry," he laughed. "I know a restaurant that offers a heart-healthy menu." Their first date was very pleasant, the conversation natural and easy. Elena was passionate about her work. She told Daniel she chose to become a physical therapist because her father had experienced similar heart problems. Seeing patients go from weak to strong, knowing I helped them recover, that's the most wonderful feeling in the world, she said, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. As time passed, their relationship gradually deepened. Elena didn't rush to push forward, understanding that Daniel had just experienced a difficult marriage breakdown. She gave him space and time to heal, while gradually melting the walls he had built around his heart with her warmth and sincerity. A year later, when Daniel had fully recovered and could participate in moderate physical activities, he invited Elena to hike in Yosemite National Park. In front of the magnificent waterfall, he told her his whole story, the breakdown of his marriage, the fear of the heart attack, and how he found the courage and hope to live again. You know, he said, looking at the magnificent scenery, sometimes I almost want to thank that heart attack and Nicole's betrayal. They made me understand what's truly important. Elena held his hand, nodding understandingly. Sometimes, the greatest pain brings the most important realizations. Daniel looked at her, suddenly feeling a wave of gratitude and love. This woman had not only helped him regain his physical health, but also helped him believe in love and trust again. I love you, Elena, he said softly, the first time he had said these words to her. Thank you for coming into my life. Elena smiled, tears shining in her eyes. I love you too, Daniel. On the way back to San Francisco, Daniel's phone suddenly rang. The screen showed an unknown international number. Out of curiosity, he answered the call. Daniel Harris? A strange male voice asked, with a heavy Italian accent. Yes, that's me. May I ask who's calling? This is Marco Rossi, the other person said, his voice hesitant, Nicole's former colleague. Daniel felt a strange calm. Once, this name would have filled him with anger and pain, but now, it had almost no emotional impact. Marco, what can I do for you? I thought you should know. Nicole was in a car accident in Milan, Marco said, his voice trembling with emotion. It's serious. She's in intensive care now. Daniel gripped the steering wheel, unsure how to respond. I'm sorry to hear that, he finally said, his voice calm but sincere. But I'm not sure why you're telling me this. We've been divorced for over a year. I know, Marco said, but you're the only name in her emergency contact file. She has no other family, at least not in Italy. The doctors need to make some decisions. I don't have the legal authority. Daniel took a deep breath, glancing at Elena sitting in the passenger seat. She was looking at him with concern, and although she had only heard half the conversation, she could clearly sense the seriousness of the situation. I'll contact the hospital, Daniel finally said, but I can't fly to Milan. I have my own health issues and responsibilities here. I'll provide what help I can, but it will have to be done remotely. Marco gratefully agreed and provided the hospital's contact information. After hanging up, Daniel explained the situation to Elena. Do you want to go? She asked, her voice without any reproach or unease, only understanding. Daniel shook his head. No, my life has moved forward. I'll provide what help I can, but that relationship is over. In the days that followed, Daniel communicated with the doctors in Milan by phone, providing Nicole's medical history information as a former spouse. He contacted their mutual friends, informing them of the situation, and several decided to travel to Milan to provide support. He even contacted Nicole's parents, although they had had little contact with their daughter for many years. A week later, when Nicole's condition stabilized and she could briefly talk, she requested a video call with Daniel. Out of respect for the past, he agreed. When Nicole's face appeared on the screen, Daniel barely recognized her. Her face was covered with abrasions and stitches, with deep bruises around her eyes. But most shocking was the expression in her eyes, a deep remorse and realization. Thank you for arranging everything, Daniel, she said weakly. I didn't know who else to contact. You're welcome, he calmly replied. I hope you recover soon. Nicole's eyes moistened. Life has such irony, doesn't it? Now I'm the one in the hospital, while you're out there healthy and happy. Daniel didn't respond to this comment, just waited for her to continue. I heard you've started over, she continued. I'm happy for you, really. You deserve happiness. Thank you, Daniel simply answered. I want you to know, I truly regret what I did, Nicole said, her voice trembling with emotion. Not just the affair, but my coldness when you needed me. That voice message. I can never forgive myself. Daniel felt a strange sense of release. Nicole, I've forgiven you. Not for you, but for myself. Anger and resentment aren't good for the heart. Nicole tried to smile, but winced in pain. The doctors say my recovery will be long. Some injuries may never fully heal. Take it one step at a time, Daniel suggested, recalling his own recovery process. Focus on each small progress. When the call ended, Daniel closed the computer, feeling a sense of calm and release. He walked to the balcony, looking at the San Francisco skyline, taking a deep breath. Life sometimes is indeed full of irony and unexpected turns, but ultimately, it teaches us how to be strong, how to grow, and how to forgive, not for others, but for ourselves. Elena hugged him from behind, resting her head on his shoulder. Are you okay? Daniel turned to face her, smiling and nodding. Better than ever. In that moment, he knew he had truly let go of the past, no longer bound by betrayal and pain. The heart attack and Nicole's betrayal were once the darkest moments in his life, but they also led him to find true happiness and inner peace. Sometimes, it's in our most vulnerable moments that we discover our true strength. It's in the deepest betrayal that we learn the true value of trust and love. Daniel looked into Elena's eyes, knowing he had found his true home. Not a house, not a marriage, but a feeling. The feeling of being truly understood, respected, and loved. This is something no money or social status can buy. It comes from the connection of two sincere hearts. As the sun set, its golden light washing over the rooftops of San Francisco, Daniel and Elena stood on the balcony, hand in hand, welcoming a new day, new hope, and a future filled with true love. In life's journey, sometimes the greatest setbacks are precisely the greatest blessings. Because it's in these dark moments that we can truly see what's important, what's worth cherishing, and how to find strength to continue forward. For Daniel, his heart may have been wounded, but it became stronger and more loving than ever before. This is life, full of unexpected turns, but ultimately, what truly matters is how we respond to these challenges and what we learn from them. In this process, we discover our true selves and the true meaning of love. If this story resonated with you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more wonderful content. We look forward to meeting you in our next story.